and welcome to Diversified Wealth and Retirement. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Kent Stelgis of Diversified Wealth Advisors. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. How are you this week?
I'm doing great. You know, like you said before, it's a great day. What did you say? It's a great day?
Two kinds of days, good days and great days.
I love your positive attitude.
Absolutely.
Last time I saw you, we talked a bit about your background. I love the fact that you're a jack of all trades. You're like a Renaissance man. You have a healthcare background. You are the mayor of your small town, and now I just found out you are.
Yeah, I've done a few weddings as an.
Okay, he can do it all, people. Retirement's just one of the things. But we actually had so many people call in. It was just such a great show and had some great questions. So I thought I would just dive right in because these are topics that are probably relevant to a lot of our viewers.
Absolutely.
Okay, first question we got was, I'm retiring next year, and my neighbor, who is very investment savvy, told me I should convert my entire $500,000 401k to a Roth. Is that a good idea?
You know, right off the bat, the first answer is no. But there's some reasons, right, why we say no. So when we think about it, it used to be that you could recharacterize that from a Roth back to a traditional. That option's now gone. So it wouldn't make sense to do that right off the bat just because we've lost that ability to change that. But some other reasons we have to think about is, depending on when you're retiring next year, not only are you going to have to pay income tax on your regular income, but you'd have to pay income tax on 100% of that conversion. Okay. So if you think about taking a $500,000 income jump, that's probably going to put you in that 30% tax or better. Well, when you think about 30% tax on $500,000, that's a $150,000 tax liability you're going to have. So that money's going to drop down to around $350,000. Well, you've got to grow about 43% just to get back to even, right? Just to get back to that $500,000. Now, you're also retiring. Are you going to have to take income out of that? Well, if you're taking income out of that, how much longer is it going to take to get back just to even? Another piece that a lot of people don't think about, you also haven't considered what happens if we have another market downturn and we lose another 20 or 30% of that. Now you may never recover from that significant loss. So off the bat, it's probably not the right thing to do initially. Now, it might make sense to convert portions of that over time, but it's so important. You've got a year left to really get out, talk with a financial planner, see what makes the most sense rather than maybe just listening to somebody that read some stuff on the internet.
Well, then that's what I was going to say. The internet has become the new water cooler, and people are relying on it way too much. I think the thing is, with any kind of plan, financial plan, especially a retirement plan, there are so many pieces to that puzzle, and I'm sure his neighbor wasn't asking him all those questions that you're asking.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that a lot. People will come in, oh, my neighbor said this, or this guy at work said that. You know, they don't know the rest of your picture. Their risk tolerance may be different than yours, and their whole scenario may be entirely different than yours.
My favorite is, my neighbor said I should buy this stock. You know, okay, well, I'm sure your neighbor knows everything about this.
Right. We get that a lot.
Okay, so we've got our next question is, I've got a 403B, and I'm thinking about moving it to an immediate annuity for lifetime income. Is this a good idea?
You know, that's really a tough one. So what you're doing at that point is you're just moving your money from that retirement plan to this insurance company. The challenge is with that, if you do that, let's say you get a payout that's going to be $7,000 a month for life or $6,000 a month for life. Well, what happens if inflation goes up and your needs go up? That can be a challenge. Well, we know they're talking about increasing taxes. So if your tax rate goes up, your monthly take-home payment is eroded on there. Another big challenge with putting all your money into that one piece or one singular investment, let's say something comes up and you have an emergency, right? You need to get an extra $10,000 or $15,000 from that. You don't have that option inside that single pay annuity. Let's say worse yet, you get 10 years into retirement and you're looking at this, you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Unfortunately, you don't have any liquidity. It's locked in there for the rest of your life. So that's not to say that annuities don't have a place or may not fit in your retirement, but I certainly, at this point, with that bit of information, it doesn't make sense to just take all of your assets and put them into one singular product.
Why is it that there's so much negativity going around about annuities? You just hear so many things on the internet, like we were saying.
Right. You know, you hear it on TV, different people, oh, annuities are always bad, or maybe you read it on the internet, they're always bad. I think it's a misconception, right? There are some fees in there, right? So one of the things we say is that they're not too good to be true, but they're too good to be cheap internally. So using an annuity, or anything for that matter, has to fit inside your plan. And for a lot of clients, they want that security of a known income every month.
Sure.
Well, 85% of us today don't have a pension. How could we create that? An annuity may be an option for a portion of your retirement assets.
You know, speaking of pensions, I think that previous generations had just a different scenario when it came to retirement. They had their pension. It was they had such a small amount of options, but it was kind of all thought out for them. And in our generation does not have that.
Yeah, no, our retirement today is much more complex than it was for our parents and our grandparents. It's markedly different. You know, at that time, one of the risks, we talk about the different types of risk, and most people initially just think of market risk, right? The market's going up and down, but we've got longevity risk, right? So 20, 30, 40 years ago, you really only had to plan for maybe 10 years of retirement because a lot of people weren't going to live past 75. Well, today, if they're living out to be 85 or 90 or even making it to 100, well, that's 35 or 40 years. So it's much more complex today to figure out, how am I going to generate my income? How am I going to keep this all coming in throughout the duration of my life, plus so many other parts that go into an income plan.
And it should be a blessing. I mean, we have all these advances in healthcare that keep us hopefully living that excellent quality of life that we want, but it requires proper planning.
It absolutely does, right? So just jumping into any of these and looking at any piece singularly can be a huge detriment to your overall retirement plan and the success of what retirement looks like for you.
So for those people who are sitting out there on their sofas thinking, okay, you know what, I have never talked to my financial advisor about any of these things, and maybe I should get a second opinion. What do they get when they give you a call?
Yeah, absolutely. If you call us at 844-484-8620, we're offering a complimentary review of your entire portfolio. You can come in, meet with us, and see if what you've got together makes sense to put together in a plan to get you through retirement.
You know, other advisors charge $1,000 or more for this, so it's pretty spectacular. They get this complimentary and relatively risk-free. And as we get second opinions from our doctors, we should do the same thing for financial advisors, especially if you don't have one already and you are realizing, I have no plan.
Absolutely. It makes so much sense to really sit down and talk with someone. We tell people all the time, are you confident enough in the plan you have to get a second opinion? If it's working great, we'll tell you, hey, that's a great plan. Keep doing what you're doing. But if there are some red flags out there, we'll talk to you about those as well.
Excellent. All right, well, that number again is 844-484-8620. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to go to some of your most precious viewer questions.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Hello, welcome back to Diversified Wealth and Retirement. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Kent Stelgis, and we're talking all things retirement.
Yeah, we absolutely are. It's really great to be back again. Appreciate it.
Kent, the phone lines have been so busy, and it's great because we're getting lots of questions that I think all the viewers out there can probably relate to at some point or another. Yeah. So I'm just going to dive right back in if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I had Mary from Leawood. She called on 63, retiring in 2 years. My broker is still telling me to decrease my 401k contributions and buy FANG stocks. Is this a a good idea?
Right. Well, that's a great question, right? And so for those of you that don't know what those are, FANG stocks are the big Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, right? And while a lot of people love them, right, they've been very popular the last few years, and people are buying them up like crazy. There's a couple really big caveats to what your broker is telling you there. First, one of the things we've already talked about, right? They're talking about this singularly outside of the rest of their plan. That could have huge detriments. And what we mean by that is, how does that play into your overall risk with the rest of your portfolio? If you're buying these, they can be really very volatile stocks. Though they've done great over the past few years, that could change at any moment. So that's one piece that you've got to have somebody looking at. Is your broker looking at the rest of your portfolio and plan? On top of that, another thing that we really have to look at is, we know they're talking about capital gains increasing over the next 5 years, 10 years, possibly even doubling, maybe sooner than that. Well, if your capital gains tax double and you're putting this money into just a traditional brokerage account, when you sell those off, you're setting yourself up for more tax liability. So another challenging thing to think about. And another really big piece with that, they're telling you to decrease your contributions to your 401k. Well, if you drop below what your employer is giving you in a match, you're instantly giving up, money that they're giving you, right? It's really hard to beat 100% return on your money.
Absolutely.
The second you put it in. So while it might make sense to buy some of those FANG stocks, it may be much more beneficial to your retirement plan to put that inside a Roth, right? Alleviate some of those capital gains taxes, pay that tax today, and don't worry about what those future tax rates are later, and you can take them out at the point that makes the most sense without the big tax worry.
And it's like we were talking about earlier, there really is not one answer to a single portion of your, retirement puzzle. You have to put all the pieces together. And so if you're listening to a neighbor or a friend or something on the internet, you're not really getting the whole picture. So it's so important to work with a professional.
It absolutely is. Anytime, and we've seen people on the backside of that where they come in and, hey, 5 years ago, my broker told me this, or the guy at the water cooler said this, and now all of a sudden here I am into retirement, and I think it was a bad idea. We always say, when would you want to know when your health is deteriorating, right? Or when would you want to know if you've made a bad financial decision? As early as possible, when you can fix it, you've got more time to correct those issues.
Absolutely. Well, we always say the earlier the better, right? And we talked about it on a previous show, but even if you're somebody sort of in the midlife stage, 40, rumor, we don't need to say, we have to start thinking about these things, because we are sort of sandwiched between our, taking care of our parents and then taking care of our children, and we don't really think about ourselves enough. And, one day your kids leave the house and your parents are, gone, and you're left with, oh, I didn't plan for myself. And it's unfortunate, because we could prevent those problems.
Yeah, it really is. It's so important to reach out and work with the fiduciary that can help you navigate these waters, right? This is, like we talked on that last episode there, it's so much more complex today than it was 20 or 30 years ago, or really even 5 or 10 years ago. So many laws came into effect with the Secure Act that changed some of the options you have available. They've changed RMD ages. There's so many pieces, and it's constantly moving. So a piece of advice that somebody gives you around the water cooler may have been great 2 or 3 years ago, but it may be totally irrelevant or really damaging or detrimental to your overall retirement.
And also another reason why we need to revisit these plans annually, because so much changes in our personal lives as well as regulations, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things we do. We always want to sit down with our client at least once a year to review their plan, but we're going to generally be reaching out and touching base 2 or 3 times a year. And on top of that, anytime you have a material change, whatever that may be, maybe you just got a $20,000 a year pay raise, or maybe COVID happened and you lost your job, right? Those are those important times to reach out to your financial advisor and say, hey, some things have changed. How does this impact my plan? It's so important to keep updated on that.
Absolutely. All right, let's get back to these questions.
Yeah.
John from Overland Park asked, what advantages do ETFs have over mutual funds?
That's a great question, and we're seeing that come up more and more now. Over the last several years, money has really been moving out of that mutual fund space and moving towards the ETFs. Some of the advantages that ETFs have over mutual funds can really make a difference on all aspects of your retirement. So one, ETFs are going to trade like a stock. So if you call in and say, hey, we need to trade this ETF, you can make that trade essentially right on the spot, right, if you're just putting in a market order. But a mutual fund, you can put your trade request in at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't matter if somebody else requested at 3 o'clock. That's not going to trade till the close of trading that day. So that's one big difference between the ETFs and the mutual fund, or one advantage where ETFs have over mutual funds. Another big advantage that ETFs have over mutual funds is in regards to capital gains, right? So sometimes you'll have a mutual fund that maybe it's flat for the whole year. You didn't make any money, but somehow you still got a capital gains bill at the end of the year. So what happens with mutual funds, the laws allow them to pass their own capital gains on to the shareholders. So what that means, a mutual fund may have 100 or 150 different stocks inside of it. Well, if they're looking at that and, hey, they've held this stock for 10 years and it's grown substantially, they want to sell it to bring in some money. Well, you're going to get hit with a portion of that capital gains bill because that's what the laws allow, even though your mutual fund may have been flat or could have even lost money. So there's another big advantage. ETFs generally are much more passive and don't generate those capital gains that mutual funds do. So that's two. And the third really big one that we talk about, ETFs are generally going to have lower fees and expense ratios than mutual funds, right? With mutual funds, we often don't see what those 12b-1 fees or those expense fees are inside of them. And that makes it really challenging. It can be confusing. Somebody may say, well, this should have been up 8.5%, but how come I'm only up 7.5% for the year? Well, maybe that's second to all those internal fees that you never really see in those mutual funds.
So amazing to me. People don't often know what fees they're paying on really most of the investments that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very common. If people, maybe they're not working with a fiduciary, or maybe they're just looking at their 401k plan. Most 401k plans consist of some mix of mutual funds, right? Well, you're not going to know what any of those internal fees are in that mutual fund inside your 401k. Your 401k's also got fees that your plan is paying as well. So it's very common for people to walk in and not have any idea what they're actually paying for all those investments.
And we have no control over those to begin with. So.
Right, yeah. Those are all ran by prospectus, and those mutual funds are managed for the mutual funds, right? They're actively managed, but it's for the company, not for you, the individual investor.
Wow. So good to know. Well, let's let the viewers out there know what it is that they can expect when they give us a call and what they're going to get when they come into your office.
Yeah, absolutely. If you reach out to us at 844-484-8620, we're offering complimentary portfolio and retirement income plan reviews. These often can cost $1,000 or more. If you come in, sit down with us, we'll go over your entire retirement assets and allocations and see what retirement plan makes the most sense for you.
And the fact that it's complimentary, I mean, people do charge $1,000 or more, and this is something that if we don't have a plan, clearly we need one. If you've been working with another advisor, but maybe you haven't spoken to them since 2019, that would be a red flag. You can come in and get a second opinion, which we all need to do with our doctors, our financial advisors. There's no reason not to. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to get to some of these more pressing viewer questions.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? And who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hello, welcome back to Diversified Wealth and Retirement. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Kent Stelgis, and we got some great activity on the phone lines and really some very interesting questions. It just turns out that everybody's got some very unique situation, and no two ever seem to be alike. So really important that they get a personalized plan to their own scenario, right?
You have to. Each and every individual is going to have different scenarios, different circumstances, and that's why those cookie cutter kind of portfolios or plans don't make sense for most people. And you'll see those folks that come in 5 or 10 years into retirement, they're like, so I had to go back to work because what I thought was going to work didn't, right? My stack of statements that I thought was going to get me through retirement didn't work. And, we always say that if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. 100%.
All right, let's get to this next viewer question. This is from Beverly from Liberty. She changed jobs, and what are her options with her old 401k? And I'm sure we see this a lot post-2020.
We do. With COVID, we saw a lot of people either getting laid off or just changing jobs because they, like we talked about in one of our previous episodes, reprioritizing, right? Seeing what was more important. So we're seeing a lot of people changing jobs and having those 401ks. And really, there are a number of different options out there. So option number one, you could say, hey, withhold the penalty, depending on how old you are, of course. If you're under a certain age, under 59 and a half, you've got a 10% penalty, but withhold the penalty, withhold the taxes, cut me a check. Probably not the best plan for most people, right? If the plan allows, you could let it sit there. Just let it sit and see what's happening. Does that make sense? Well, again, now you're on that yo-yo retirement plan, that you're on your own retirement plan. You're not getting the advice you need to help navigate those specific investments with your risk tolerance in mind. A third option that people have is they could say, well, I'm just going to roll it into my new plan. And a lot of people will think, well, that really sounds like a great, simple idea. Well, once again, there's some challenges with that. And some of the things we talk about there, the government at 59 and a half will allow you to do what's called an in-service rollover. I should say most 401k plans allow that. What that means is when you turn 59 and a half, most plans will allow you to roll your assets out of that 401k into a personalized IRA. And the reason they do that, inside that 401k, again, your options are limited, right? Maybe you do have 10 or 20 different mutual fund options, but nobody's helping guide you on what to select for you, for your risk tolerance, for your stage of life,
sure,
and for the rest of your financial picture. So that can be really a pretty poor decision. It may be right, but it may not. And then that fourth decision, which is often what works the best for people, is to go out, meet with a fiduciary, meet with a financial advisor, have them review what you've got, look at your entire plan, and roll that into an IRA that's custom tailored for you and your specific risk tolerance, looking at your financial future, not the mutual fund company or the 401k company.
I mean, it just keeps coming back to having something that's individualized to your needs, to your situation, because my needs are going to be different than yours, are going to be different than someone else's. So
absolutely, that's definitely some of the most important parts.
Okay. Our next question is Drew from Leawood. I'm 65, retiring in June. I have about $250,000 in a 401k, pension, and Social Security. I only have $10,000 in debt. My income from Social Security and my pension will cover my expenses. What type of advisor should I seek out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Drew. And first, congrats on retiring here soon. That's always a bonus. But some of the things that people will get kind of confused about right there, he's fortunate enough to have a pension and have Social Security, and right now, that's going to cover the majority of his monthly expenses. Well, what happens, as we talked, previously, what happens if taxes double? So let's say he's, bringing home $6,000 a month between his Social Security and pension, which would be a great Social Security and pension, right? But if his taxes double, and now all of a sudden he's only bringing home maybe $5,000 a month, or maybe they go higher, $3,500 or $4,500 a month. How does that impact his ability to pay those monthly bills, stay in the house that he wants, take the vacations he wants, and live that retirement that he wants to, right? That drastically changes. So you've got that $250,000 sitting out there. Does it make sense to pull all that out, right? Probably not. If you go to just a broker, they're going to maybe push you into the stock market only. Or if you go to somebody that's working with an insurance company, they're going to push you only into an insurance product. Or if you go to somebody that maybe works at a bank, they're going to put you into banking products. So when you ask what type of advisor should I be looking at or what should I do with that 401k, you need to look for a fiduciary that's always going to do what's in your best interest, right? A fiduciary is always held to that higher standard. And if you can find one that's working for an independent firm that gives them all the options of the banking world, the insurance world, and the securities world, they can put together a plan that's custom tailored, again, to Drew's needs, not anything else, right? Not one that's just cookie cutter and doesn't make sense. That would allow him to feel more comfortable and more confident knowing what his chances are of making it through retirement, regardless of what else happens.
That is a fantastic answer. Well, for those viewers out there who are thinking, okay, you know what, I haven't had this kind of conversation with my advisor, and I probably should get a second opinion, what are they going to get when they give you a call?
Yeah, absolutely. If you reach out to us at 844-484-8620, you're going to get the chance to come in, complimentary review of your overall retirement picture, right? We'll do a complete portfolio analysis of everything that you've got available, work with you to create that custom-tailored retirement plan to suit your needs with your risk tolerance in mind, take into account your health care, your legacy, your income plan, and put some tax strategies together that make sense for you.
You know, we talk a lot about people referring to the internet and people looking on, you know, to their friends for answers. And really, when it comes down to it, why would we not seek out the advice of a professional? We don't, you know, go over to our neighbor's house and show them our, you know, broken wrists and ask them to give it an x-ray. So go to the financial professional, the people who have your best interest at heart and who are going to create a plan that is unique to you and your situation, because all of us have different needs. And especially approaching retirement, I know for sure I wouldn't want to wait until right about when I was going to do it. I'd want to know in advance what my options are to make sure I maximize those golden years.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we all just want to take that vacation with our grandkids, don't we? Or is that just me?
Hey.
I just want grandkids.
There you go. No, absolutely.
Well, we never get to all the questions, but until next time, we absolutely will. It's been so wonderful being here with you.
It has been great.
And thank you for sharing all of your knowledge. Give us a call, 844-484-8620. Kent will take a look at your entire financial health, and he will create a health plan essentially for your retirement. And we all could use that these days. Until then.